All right, here we go. The last part of this is going to be after I have finished all the textures and carved around the ladybugs and poked the holes, and I used a pencil just with some cross hatching to get kind of the forest floor. I did a little bit of relief sculpting, made that maybe look like a twig, and I made another one over here that makes it look like a twig sticking up. Um, and what else did I do? Remember, I took a paper clip with this moss that's supposed to be a kind of a light green moss and just kind of twitch like that. Little circles to break off to get some of that texture. I drew some lines in the twigs to get the wood grain. Same kind of thing with the leaves. I did those little the veins in the leaves. Okay, and then there's a whole bunch of crumbs all over the place. I carefully, and your clay should be firm enough to be able to do this without it bending if you hold it carefully. Always really hold your hand all the way. If you're going to turn it upside down, put your hand all the way around it. Don't ever grab it from the edge. That's going to just break it. Okay, let it go like that. And then I had to wipe off some of the extra crumbs. Before I forget, I want to remind you to make sure to put your name in it nice and clearly as possible. Okay, I don't have a period number, so I'm going to put what year I made this. If you're period 2, you just put a P2. And then always make sure, so made this in 20. Wipe away the crumbs. Go through it again. Make sure it's as clean and clear as possible. If you want to do a fancy signature, that's great. But also put your name, okay? And since it's upside down, what a really good idea is any little sharp edges you might have at some corners, and I've kind of done this already. You want to kind of get a paper clip or some kind of tool to trim. Just trim off that sharp corner down here. With a little bit of fingertip with water on it, can make that. And I still have to do that for the rest of it. Okay, I've already trimmed, but I haven't used my fingertip with the water yet. And then you can get it looking nice and kind of rounded, and it looks like it naturally happened. But remember, the idea is to tool all surfaces. So that means after you use a tool, you want to make it look like you did not use a tool. So even on the front side, even on your letters, when you slice through the clay, some clay gets lifted up on both edges of your slice. So take that paper clip and kind of wear down those little raised edges. And again, maybe a little fingertip with water. And look, that almost made it disappear. But that's just stuff that comes out real easy. So I'll make sure that looks nice and clean before I'm done. Okay, so don't just throw your name on there and call it done. Now, when I put this back down, it's going to smush a little bit of this, so I'll recheck this again. Also on the backside, check the holes, the backside of the holes too. Make sure those are kind of cleaned and don't have any really big raised edges around the hole. Okay, so I'm going to round that one off, and again, I'll do more of that after the video here. I'm going to show you what to do, but I'm not going to do the whole thing. Here, I'm just carefully brushing off some stuff. The paper that it's on, I've always been kind of letting the crumbs fall off so they don't get stuck back here. Okay, very carefully, and very carefully, don't let it plop down. I had a lot of students just go plop, they almost throw it down on their surface. Now, remember the crumbs should be dry enough. They're still moist. This clay is still cool to the touch, definitely, but it has definitely stiffened up as well. So as I was doing my carving and getting the textures, I would hold it again very carefully on the backside, and I was kind of brushing off some of the crumbs. Okay, so they don't get in the way for this last thing. All right, the last thing we do is very much like what we did on the on the coil pot and on the dome sculpture, we're just going to take a little bit of water, and I have a little water just off screen here, and I have a rag, okay? Because I don't want to put a lot of water on this. I'm just going to get some water, and I'm going to kind of touch a rag first, so it does not have a ton of water in here. And then I'm just going to just lightly brush. So I want to just soften some of those textures, so it does not look like a tool just made those textures. A little water, take a little off. On this moss, I'm going to use this brush in a circular motion, just like I made the texture, so it kind of goes right along with it. For my wood grain, I'm going to go a lot of it in the same direction, a little bit in the opposite direction. A little water, take some off, and it just kind of makes it appear that it happened naturally. It just softens it just a little bit. And I'm not using a lot of pressure, just enough to kind of soften it. And the same thing with the veins in the leaves. So you're just going to go back and forth over it a little bit. Again, not a lot of water. There's no dripping. It just kind of makes them look more natural. If you ever have an edge, kind of like here and on the bottom, if you ever have an edge, first of all, usually a finger will make that nice and soft. But sometimes a brush will fit in there in more places. So again, I'm going to go on the leaf to get those veins to be softer. On the ladybug, again, I'm just going to kind of brush it back and forth just to soften off some of those tool markings. So that's all I'm doing. And again, I won't do the whole thing because you just don't need to see me do the whole thing. And I'm going to get under where I did some undercutting under there. I'm going to make sure that I wipe a little bit. And then you still want to cover this overnight one more time at least, because you're adding moisture and you don't want it to kind of crack the clay or make the clay degrade. All right, so I will do the rest of this and make sure to put your name on it. When you hand it in, it's really a good idea to still have it on a firm surface. If it's not, you at least need to make sure, again, hold it carefully with all fingers spread out back here, okay? If you hand it in, you have to put it in your plastic bag, and you can put it on the cart behind the school and just fold, let me move my camera a little bit, just fold the plastic underneath. That's all you need to do, just one time, okay? Don't tie the plastic, don't use rubber bands, just fold it underneath so you know, and then the flat side of the tile carefully can go like that, okay? And we'll be careful picking it up. There have been a few people that are handing things in that are super, super dry, and sometimes things break when they're that brittle. That's why you have to hand things in when they're kind of a firm leather hard. A few of you have handed things in that are really, really wet and like it was brand new fresh clay. And again, that's not the ideal way either. So that's all you have to do to hand it in. And if there's stuff there already, it can go on the bottom shelf of that cart behind the attendance windows, or it can go in with the people inside the office. If you ring that bell, they will help you and hold things in there as well. All right, there you go. Hopefully that helps you finish things off. Make sure your holes are nice and cleared out, and make sure your name is on it very clearly whenever you handle it. Make sure you kind of, flip it like that. And again, you shouldn't have pieces that are so fragile sticking up that you can't do that safely, as long as you're careful with it. All right, there you go. See you next time.